Welcome to the On Your Mind podcast, where we believe mental illness can be temporary and transformative. Stay tuned for innovative, effective tools from experts in the field of mental health. Hosted by Timothy J. Hayes, psychologist. This podcast aims to change the narrative around mental illness. Move from a place of fear to a place of hope and solutions. Here on Your Mind.
Agatha Peters is a Nigerian-American psychotherapist, the founder of Beautiful Sunshine Therapy and the author of Trapped in Their Script: Reclaim Your Life from Narcissistic Parents and Cultural Expectations. She is dedicated to helping adult children of narcissistic parents, especially those from collectivist cultures where family loyalty often overshadows individual well-being. Having experienced the healing power of therapy herself, she is passionate about helping others discover the same transformation and offers guidance on embracing one's identity while respecting cultural ties. Well, Agatha, thank you so much for joining me today. It's delightful to see you.
It's nice to see you and meet you again, Dr. Timothy.
I was hoping you could get us started by telling us a little bit about how you got into the work you do and what drives your passion for it, and a little bit about what you want people to take from your book.
I got into the work because, I am Nigerian American. So originally I came from Nigeria, where trauma is seen as part of the culture and not really talked about. So I grew up in an environment with a narcissist, and then coming here really opened my eyes when I started college to start to understand that perhaps that what I was experiencing at home was not normal. But during college, a professor had told me that, it is important to check yourself first before you can actually sit on a couch and help others. So, and I really truly believe in that, by the way. So I think all therapists need to see a therapist as well. So I did, and I went, and that was a clarity for me, and also validation from my therapist that I had parent that was narc, but I still wasn't okay with that. It's still, for me, it meant what do I do with that? It's not like depression or anxiety that I can treat. And we're in a profession to help others. How do I, so I was not okay with that. And it took me at least 30 something years of my life to start to realize, okay, this is true. And if it is true, what do we do about it? And every narcissistic book that was out there was from a Western lens. It didn't really speak to me, quite honestly. It didn't speak to my clients. I had to find other formulas. I had to find other ways to help people be able to live within this in a collective cultural lens. So that's why I wrote my book. And that is also why I became a therapist.
Well, as we were talking about earlier, one of the it's difficult enough to deal with somebody who is so wounded that they can't take your needs into consideration, right? It's a very difficult thing to deal with somebody. And that's if you're an adult dealing with another adult. But if you're a child dealing with an adult who's so wounded that they can't take your needs into account, it's a really sticky wicket, as they say. It's a big mess. When you layer on top of that these cultural allowances for or expectations of abuse, that's so complex. I'm thrilled that you wrote the book to try and help people understand how they can start to deal with that.
Yeah. Well, the cultural layers, we have a huge obligation to honor our culture. And if we're told this is the right way and this is how we do things, we have to obey that. And beating extremely is, and that perhaps that's how they learn in that community, because there are also no resources available and things like that. And again, when you come from communities where there's so much trauma, so we think of the hierarchy of needs. Those needs are not there. First is just survival, really. So you haven't gotten to the point of being able to feel safe enough to start to regulate yourself, to try to regulate your children or your child. Now, there's a lack there of resources. There's a lot of survival. And then in my community, there is a great deal of success, like due to, and when you think of poverty, we want to get out of that poverty. So what is important is behind, your initials after your signature. That's what is important. That's what we look at as success. So when you then put a narcissist in a place where that means that child needs to be perfect, right? You need to meet that cultural expectation. You need to, it doesn't matter what you want to do, it's what they want you to do. You're punished for not meeting that expectations no matter what. So, for us, doctors, engineers, those are the things that are, that is, big, a huge thing for Nigerian culture. And of course, it's because, again, no one wants to be poor. So therefore, we try to find ways to survive. But a narcissist, oh my gosh, yeah, that is a feeding ground for them. A grandiosity, make me look good. And you can't bring shame to my community, to our community. And again, all the elders and the leaders, yeah, they're going to see that as, well, that's what it should be. So you really, for a lot of kids, there's no way. And then again, that might be also be brutal punishment for how you can get your A's and how you can do good. So that's part of it there within that cultural expectations, but there's a lot in other cultures too that I see all the time in therapy. And so how do we differentiate? Is it narcissism, or is this just generational trauma too? Or is this mental health, other parts of mental health, not a cluster B personality disorder? So helping differentiate that for people, I think they get this aha moment. Yeah.
So how do you help somebody choose to get healthier themselves when that very process of getting healthier themselves is going to isolate them or separate them from their family or their culture? How do you
Well, I think
help them?
a lot of folks, when they come to see me, they're already sort of in that way. I think the two people I get, they're one person that comes in and might be in such denial. Oh, oh no, I'm good. I don't have any problems. I'm just here to just, talk to someone, or I was told to come. So complete in denial, right? And then I have the one that come in and there's anger. There's anger, there's resentment for the culture or for the parent, or, there's all of that they come in carrying. So there's a lot of meeting them where they're at. And then starting with just trust in that mirror until we're ready. But in my cultures too, they're also okay with directness, which a lot of Western therapists, it's kind of hard to get there. They struggle with that directness. And I always say, how do you want me to help with this? I can tell you as it is, or we can have you drive.
Ease into it, right? Yeah.
Oftentimes I want to just write that in there. And you still need to come at it in a place of care and compassion and a lot, So for that person that comes in that, might have anger and resentment towards family or maybe what they're going through. And I think also too, that's almost like the process of grief where we have to get through it and get to sadness and all the things that comes with it. But it's to help them realize, hey, from where you came from, a lot of these parents, they're handed tools. We all get different tools when we become parents, based on all these other parents, all the struggles that they went through. Those tools are handed to us. Some of the tools, they're rusty, they're broken, they don't work, but they don't see that yet. It takes a lot of effort to be able to recognize that your tools need work.
And or that your tools might be producing results that you don't like, but you're busy because you've been trained to do this. You're busy blaming other people and situations for the results. But the results are what you're getting because of the tool you're using.
Exactly. So we keep, the empathy there is recognizing that they didn't really have much to work on with to begin with. Even sometimes, even as it's hard as it is to have compassion for the narcissist, I have had to at some point. I think you just, that is what.
Yeah, but the narcissist started out as a sperm and an egg, and they had parents that had more power over them, and they had bullies, and they're
Yep.
just people.
Exactly. They're just people. So how we get to, and sometimes when, we're not there to hear that they're just people, we want to sit with that anger. And that's, again, the example of tools are just easy to help people relate to. So when you get those tools, whatever you use is what you use to raise the next generation. And unless they're able to work on those tools, they don't know any better. That is just, and you're here because you're seeing my tools are not working. Often, sometimes I get the parents that they just became new parents and they are sick of it. They see themselves become their mother or their father, and they don't want that anymore. So, and they've taken a good look at the tool and it's not working. And perhaps too, it triggers all the stuff that, they don't want to expose your children to that sorts of behavior. So yeah, it's helping them recognize that. And I think oftentimes your guards get brought down and how we could start doing some of that work. Yeah.
Well, and I remember near the beginning of the book, you had a story about a woman whose mother was using the cultural bias towards honoring the parents, et cetera. And she was literally using it as a weapon against her daughter, her own
Yeah.
daughter.
Yes. I think that was Chioma. Yeah.
Because the daughter was trying to protect her children from the hurtful things that their grandmother was doing.
Absolutely.
But then talk a little bit about that. How do you help somebody in a situation like that where their parent is enlisting the village to be on their side and, promote something that's detrimental to the children?
Well, when you think about parents, even in Western sense, we go as much as we're a very independent culture, right? We go to the hospital, which I worked in the ERs, I've seen this often, and you put a child and the parent in a room. The first thing that the doctor is going to ask is, "What's wrong with your child?" Now, why would they ask that? Because they believe that the parent is wanting the best for their kid. That is what we are raised to believe. That as humanity, like that's part of humanity. That's who we are. But that parent, when you have a narcissist, that's not how it is. They don't care. They could care less. They
Right.
absolutely have no.
They can give lip service to it, but the
Yeah.
bottom line is they're in self-protection mode all the time.
They could even be causing the harm that your accident was happening to. They really could. I've seen it over and over. So, you sit there, and in communities like that, it's the same thing. Your parents are there to protect you. They believe whatever it is that the parent tells them because they're your parent. So you have no way of winning. That child has no way of winning. Whether it's lies being spread on you, whether it's the truth that they turn into something terrible and use it against you, they're gonna try to find whatever it is for them to be the attention, the
Center of attention.
yeah, yeah. And people would believe it because why wouldn't you believe the word of a parent when it comes to their child? Right. So it's so difficult for any child to have to deal with that. And they almost turn the community against you. And oftentimes, these kids are left with really bad PTSD, depression, anxiety. So all of these things, and I think word narcissist is used thrown out so much, which really leaves no room for folks like myself and other people that have actually experienced this really bad years and are sick because of these human beings, right? Narcissist is not someone was mean to me yesterday. Like that's not, or, this person is doing mean things. No, you feel imprisoned in your own home
Right.
every
There's
day.
almost a complete lack of safety. Yeah.
There is no they have no care. They have no ability to care. So oftentimes when I would see that in the hospital setting, it's almost triggering to me because I would have to, after that, depending on the situation. I mean, and I've even seen a narcissist refuse to give medical attention that was
Right.
warranted and needed for this child's safety. And of course, I had to put in, I had to, well, no, CPS will be called. So that was two parents, and they were also using cultural and spiritual, all of the forces.
So how do you deal with that and when you're in a therapist on your own and you have these cultural and spiritual references that are being used to justify what you know is not healthy for the child? How do you get in there? What kind of interventions have you found can be useful?
First, that child needs to be examined differently than anyone else in the room. I find that it can be helpful. For therapists, if you work with children, you need to talk to the child first, or a second, but talk to the parents and talk to the child, and then talk to all three or all parties together. Right. So that helps you really understand, the family dynamic to begin with. And also having a trust. I think for me, when I think about my experience as a child, therapy was just a place to go to be safe for an hour a week, really. That's really what it provided. So,
And around what age are you referring to yourself there?
I mean, teens, those it would just really be a place to just go in and just have safety. And I think if clinicians can just offer that, it might feel like you're doing nothing because you really are doing much, really, because you go back to that same environment. It would be like a circle of abuse, right? Where, the abuser, they're not always bad. There might be good moments here and there, but you really having a therapist that stays with that, really understands where that child is coming from, really. Sometimes a therapist might be able to see the true colors of the snark might show. Sometimes, then, oh, wow, this is what, oh, okay. But sometimes that's what it takes for them to truly know, oh, okay, this child is going through really bad stuff.
Well, and what I would tell people on a regular basis is just imagine if this is the way they're acting in my office in front of me, right? A mandated reporter and licensed clinical psychologist,
Right.
if they're doing this kind of nasty comments to their
Yep.
children in front of a therapist, imagine what happens at home when there's no governance.
Mm-hmm. They play God. That's what they do. Think they're high and mighty. And
So
then,
how do you intervene in a system like that? Do you ever, have you found anything that works at the parental level, or is all of your work supporting the client or the child?
well, thankfully, for me right now, I mostly don't work with kids in that magnitude as much. I will help the adult child when they become adults to find me, which I hope so much. But the kids, like I said, really is just letting them know that you get it in a way. I think you have to just sit there and accept that the truth of the matter is that, what they are experiencing is true for them, because a lot of kids don't have that in a community that is constantly telling you that in fact you are not, and your
You're not
parents,
being abused. There's nothing
yeah,
wrong. Your parents love you. Yeah.
they've had it worse. Yeah, all the things they might be saying. Well, yeah, you're getting when I hanger. Well, I was being beat by cables and those kinds of stuff. So people compare abuse, right? So it really silences the abuser. In that case, it's the victims. It's like, in that case, what do I do? I guess, yeah.
You're
So
being told that you can't trust your own perception.
yeah. So actually having someone else acknowledge and say, yeah, this is not okay. Safety comes. You're 18. Just hang in there, hang in there, hang in there. It's a lot of hanging in there and hoping, and still, really for kids like that, there's a lot of safety plan that needs to go into place. Safety plans that sometimes parents do not need to be aware of a lot, because that then becomes a whole different.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
hmm hmm
yeah. If you let the people know that they're being viewed as a problem, they usually just run for the door, right? They take their child out of the therapy, and you've lost all connection, all possibility to make a
Yep.
decent intervention in the family.
hmm Oh yeah. There are cases where the parents would just bring the community members to see, told you they were crazy. They're in a mental institute. And then even invoke more shame and harassment and all of that. Oh, your poor parent, look at them, those kinds of stuff. And then a lot of times it's allowed because, again, that's the parent that is coming to see the child, right? They might be saying things in the language that doctors and nurses have no idea. And then
So,
as they walk out, they smile and say, oh, I brought them food and all of that. So,
what kinds of resources do you find that are available for the people you work with, or what kinds of resources are you, thinking we most need in the field?
I think the resources that I, really in these communities, when I work with clients, we have to almost find our resources within the community. So if you are dealing with, and which we can give the resources we have out there and whatever, but because they have families and groups like that. But I think what is available is so it's westernized. And so I really encourage within these communities, we tend to find people that are going through the same thing as you are and form a network with people that just gets you. Sort of like if we were to, the AA groups, those kinds of stuff, there is, people, there's solidity in that. Having a space to go to, that you don't have to.
Yeah, this very same thing was a topic. Recently, I was interviewing Cooper Davis from the Inner Compass Initiative, and he was talking about their kind of a peer support program. He drew the parallel. He said, it would be really good to develop a 12-step model the same way they do for alcoholics and drug abuse and overeating or gambling or whatever, but to develop one that's for generic mental health issues, right? Anxiety,
Yeah.
depression, the abuse at home, the
Mhm.
narcissistic parent, etc. And there's a real need,
Mhm.
in my opinion, in our culture for more their lived experience support networks, right? People who've been through
Yeah.
the same thing
Yeah.
and found some good solutions, or they found good professionals that help them develop the tools that help them change their lives.
Absolutely.
And when they're sharing that in a peer support group, uh, it just does things that you can't get in a one-on-one therapy with a
Yeah.
professional.
Yeah. Having someone that gets you in that sort of way, it changes a lot of things for people. And also finding out from them too, their means of survival. So I think it is important. And that's why I encourage it in this communities, if finding people there, just people just like you. When I wrote my book, there's so many that also reached out to me that could not do it in person because there is so much shame of no one else is gonna get this, no one else is living in this. But they were okay sending me a private message like, thank you for this. We appreciate, this speaks to me in this sort of way. So there's so many people that can relate to those experiences within that community more than we think.
Well, and it's a great resource. I mean, if we can get people to start talking, okay, what worked for you, what didn't work for you, here's
Yeah.
what worked for me. This is how they build new solutions
hmm
that are creative, that are alive, and they change with the times. And that's another benefit of those, peer run support groups.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, another resource which I talk about in the book as well is just there's a lot of this communities and cultures, even while living in the US, you live still with your parent. You might also, while being an adult, you still live with the parent. You still might live with your in-laws. You might live with all of them, and there's a narcissist in that environment. And
So you've basically, you're living in a little microcosm of the culture you came from over here in the Western culture.
yes. So now, where most Western therapists would say, cut them off. It doesn't work. How do you want me to leave my husband, leave my home, leave my kid, leave my what? I'm not just, it's everything, right?
Yeah, and sometimes it's to somebody who's in a strange culture, in a strange country, and there's
Yeah,
all kinds of levels of dependence that you have to take into account.
exactly. So trying to figure out how to live with that narcissist in the home. And, a lot of I talk about wearing an armor in a way where you can't really share so much about yourself. And which is hard. It's really, really hard because in a parent child dynamic, this is where, a lot of things it's very difficult for a lot of my clients that leave with that parent. And they want to share things. They want to develop that bondness and again, we think of circle of abuse, that a person is not always terrible. There are times where they're friendly. So we get sucked into that. So we want that so much. We want to keep that. And then
And you want to keep it for the safety, right? This is
yeah,
the thing that, Dr. Ingrid Clayton in her new book, Fawning, she talks about
mhm,
how people look down on fawning as though it's a pathology or a problem, but it's really a very adaptive coping mechanism for
exactly.
safety. It's always done
Exactly.
because the person's triggered to a belief that they're not safe unless they win the approval of whoever's out in front of them.
That is very true. So, and there's a lot of education around what narcissism is, where they cannot give you what it is that you're seeking.
Exactly.
The safety doesn't last in
Right.
this regard. There is not really much safety if someone is tormenting you. You, there,
Right. Well, essentially, there is not safety to be had around someone who is inwardly tortured. And they will be often showing up in your world as a narcissist,
uh-huh,
right?
uh-huh,
It looks like
uh-huh,
they're torturing you. But the fact of the
uh-huh.
matter is, no happy person goes around torturing other people.
No, no. People that can't, then that's the thing. They can't really be happy no matter what you do. And oftentimes people, I mean, with these parental relationship, you want to make your parent happy. That's how you gain that approval. That's what, they feel. So they're
And
thinking,
approval here is connected to surviving,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
When you've
yeah.
got somebody who can rage like that, when you've got somebody who can
Mhm.
ignore you so completely or give you the silent treatment for days and you're just a child, it feels like I won't survive this.
Yeah, yeah. And oftentimes you don't, regardless. You don't. But you have to find and that's why again there's suicide. I've had clients in that might where it's, you get so pulled in. It's how do I continuously please this person? But when they learn the techniques of how to set, you can still live in the home, you can still wear this armor, you can, and see this person for who they are. You have to be able to see narcissists for who they are. They cannot develop a care in the world for you, really. It's about that. They
Yeah,
can they could. You would
right.
not be in where you were or where you are.
It's something that was taken away from them when they were little.
Yeah.
Their capacity to connect and be empathic and be compassionate, that was taken away from them
Yes. Yeah.
through
Brutal ways, I
either
guess.
a similar situation to what they're replicating with their
Mhm.
children today or much worse.
Absolutely. It's extreme abuse. We know. Yeah, the class of beat of Liz.
And what I try and talk to people about with this is I use the analogy of the alligator.
Mm,
The alligator is a marvel of life, right? It's prehistoric in nature. It's like a dinosaur in real life today. It's a magnificent creature.
mhm,
And I don't want to be anywhere near it. And I don't want my kids anywhere near it with raw
mhm,
chicken meat on their hands, right? And I
mhm.
don't, but just because I know the alligator could be dangerous to me or my offspring doesn't mean I have to go torture the alligator or kill it or hate it,
Yeah.
right? Or everywhere I am, think about it and think, oh, those darn alligators. But I do want to treat it with the respect that is due for an animal that's that powerful, that
Yes.
that will always just do what its nature dictates.
Absolutely.
And that's the way I try and teach people to relate to their parents who
Mhm.
were so wounded that they were either narcissistic or they were depressive, or they were obsessive compulsive in their own right. And because of those difficulties the parents struggled with, the parents were not available to give the child what
Mhm.
would help the child develop a strong inner core of love and
Mhm.
self-respect.
Yeah, that's very true.
So you
Uh,
don't have to hate the
mhm.
person that was your tormentor. You can take the step back later in life and recognize, okay, everybody's doing the best they can with whatever resources they have. My parents didn't have very good resources for parenting me.
Mhm. Yeah, it takes a lot to get there where you have that, and it's a shift too, because again, we can fall into like, okay, well, if they're so sad and need help, okay, maybe I can help solve this for them.
Exactly.
Yeah.
There's no helping.
You know?
Everybody has to pull their own weight, right?
Yes, absolutely. And I would say even the depressed parents, all the other folks, they can reach that sense of, okay, maybe I do the work, I can be on medications, maybe I can do therapy. I've seen lots of clients that I've worked with that have been able to impact their parents in that way based on how how therapy impacted them. Or maybe before they even started therapy, their parents who said, nope, absolutely not. But then eventually when they see the work that the child has done and how that has changed their lives, the parents are able and saying, okay, yes, I will seek out because I have them seek their own therapy, but they're able to do that work. That might be someone that is depressed or how all those things. Now, a narcissist, oh yeah, good luck with that. It's not happening because they don't have a problem to begin with. You have the problem.
Yeah.
Yes.
The wound is so deep and so old that it prevents them from seeing that they're that wounded,
Hmm.
right?
Yeah.
Their defenses are just up all the time and in force so thoroughly that they don't allow themselves to see their role in whatever upset is in their life.
Just can't. It takes a lot, and I have seen narcissists come to therapy just to become better narcissists. Yeah,
Yeah.
sad, really.
Well, so if you would get centered here and just kind of take a breath or two and think, okay, so what have we talked about so far, and what's something that I haven't even asked you about yet you want to make sure to put in here, or something that we've talked about that you want to go back and highlight.
Mm, okay, thinking,
Your book is titled "Trapped in Their Script,"
acting the script.
right? This reclaim your life from narcissistic parents and cultural expectations. So is there an aspect of that that we haven't even touched on yet, or
Yeah,
something you want to go back and highlight from your book?
I think the main thing there is recognizing. I think in a lot of these cultures, we're so proud of our cultures. I mean, we seen Americans, we wear it like a uniform too. Like we're so proud of who we are. So recognizing that, you know, they're good and they're bad in every culture. Like there is no one. If there was if there's cultures that there's no perfect culture. So leading with what is good about it and letting go of some of that bad things, and perhaps some of the bad things is what you were raised with. So yeah, and I'm fortunate in a way where I can do both, even in this culture and how I pass that on to my children. So I think that's, good good message for people to recognize it's not like we're neglect, we're not saying your culture is terrible and this Western culture is great, and it's just the fact that the issues that we have, how do we make you feel, you know?
Empowered, right? Give you some tools, give you some kind of a roadmap for creating a more loving, respectful life for yourself.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Because cultures, it's everything for people. Again.
And you mentioned earlier that if you're a Western therapist and you see somebody from a different culture, you're likely going to say to them things like, "Well, set a boundary and
Hmm.
just cut that person out of your life." And well,
Yeah.
that's probably not going to happen, right?
Yeah, that doesn't work. They probably already knew that. But it hasn't worked for them. Yeah.
And yet you might learn how to set some boundaries with other relationships in your life. And you might learn how to have respect for yourself, and you might learn how to craft assertive communications that you would put out there in places other than your family of origin where it
Mhm.
would just bring on abuse.
Yes. Yeah, that's true. I've seen
Because
this.
if they haven't learned it in their family of origin, in their
Mhm.
community, in their home, they need to be taught. Right, how to have respect for themselves, how to craft an assertive communication that's not submissive or
Mhm.
dominant, and how to communicate effectively while taking full responsibility for whatever emotions they're experiencing.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
those are all skills that we aren't born knowing.
No. Yeah. And you're right. And there are some cultures where anger is a way of it's the main emotions that we tap into. Rage, anger, things like that. It feels more for cultures that are dominant, male dominant. It feels less shameful to, maybe show anger, hitting a wall, doing those things, hitting things. You're not a wimp or whatever that might be seen as. You're strong. But in this culture, it doesn't work that way because you do that, you find in jail. So how do we it takes so much when I work with men of colors to just get to that level of, we don't have to continuously have our guard up in a way of defending ourselves constantly. How do we get to that emotional piece that we've never actually been able to tap into, that we haven't cried for 40 years? That is not
It's
not
not
enough way of
sustainable, right? Yeah, it's
functioning.
not
Yeah.
healthy.
Mhm. Mhm. Yeah.
Yeah, it leaves you also in a place where if you can't understand and process your own emotions, you can't really connect deeply with another person,
Yeah.
right? So it leaves people feeling even more hollow and shallow inside, and they don't know the source of it. Well, the source of it is your lack of connection, first with
Absolutely.
yourself and your emotional life internally, and then with the people around you.
No, they connect. It just connects with a bottle. It's not, that's the
Right,
addiction that comes
right.
into play and things like that. Yeah. Yeah. You're right.
Well, so I greatly appreciate your being willing to spend the time with us today. The book, again, the
Mhm.
title is Trapped in Their Script: Reclaim Your Life from Narcissistic Parents and Cultural Expectations by Agatha Peters. I'm very grateful to have come across the book. I look forward to finishing it and thrilled that you were willing to share it with us.
Absolutely. It was a pleasure speaking with you today, Dr. Timothy. Thanks for having me.
Please put me on your list to receive notification of your next book when it's
I will
published.
be working on that. Yes. Yeah. I plan
All
on
right.
doing some more work. Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for taking the time. It's been a pleasure.
Yes.
Agatha Peters is a Nigerian-American psychotherapist, the founder of Beautiful Sunshine Therapy, and the author of Trapped in Their Script: Reclaim Your Life from Narcissistic Parents and Cultural Expectations. She is dedicated to helping adult children of narcissistic parents, especially those from collectivist cultures where family loyalty often overshadows individual well-being. Having experienced the healing power of therapy herself, she is passionate about helping others discover the same transformation and offers guidance on embracing one's identity while respecting cultural ties.
You've been listening to the On Your Mind podcast, offered by Journey's Dream, where we support people through mental health challenges to a place of true and lasting well-being. If you love our show, we invite you to visit onyourmindpodcast.org to join the conversation, access the show notes, and discover our helpful resources. Thank you for listening.